to the insult, please, and be straight to the point. You have a question. That's not straight. That's all discussions are very unnecessary.
What the?
Order.
I am in charge of this
Point of
meeting.
order.
Mr. Simon, please continue.
But at the end of the day, it's me and my family and my community that ended up paying the taxes to build all these schools. At $270 million, that was a 5-minute, 10-minute at most presentation. They went through a lot of slides and a lot of information very quickly. If I were on the CBOC committee, I would have a very hard time digesting all that information. I would encourage the CBOC as my representative to table any action, to form a subcommittee that can thoroughly understand this, come back to the committee with recommendations and findings, and then allow the CBOC to make an informed decision. This is a very important issue, and it's an issue that voters and other people in my community, I don't feel have been adequately informed about. And when they ask questions, we cannot get information from our district. It's very troubling. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's have a discussion by.
More public comment.
Oh, public, I'm sorry. Please state your name.
My name is Michael Day, and I am, as it turns out, I'm the president of the California League of Bond Oversight Committees. We're an association of members of bond oversight committees around the state, and I recognize some people from our annual conference a couple weeks ago. Thank you for showing up. I'm not here representing the position of CalBOC. I'm here as a private individual, but I am here as a private individual who's been associated with an organization representing bond oversight committees and looking at things from the standpoint of BOC members around the state for several years. I don't think it's really my place. I don't know the ins and outs of whether a 4% AV growth from here to eternity is reasonable. I don't know that. I don't know West Contra Costa. I don't know whether the statement that I think Mr. Steinberg made about whether there was a previous declaration that you'd never break the 60 per 100 limit, and now that's set to happen. I don't know that that happened or not. I don't know a lot of these things, and that's not what I'm here to talk about. What I'm talking about here is to talk about really the nature of oversight from sort of the statewide level. It's not just West Contra Costa that you're serving here. You're really serving, I think Mr. Kelly reached some of this point. You're serving to maintain faith in government. It's to maintain the faith of people, not just for West Contra Costa, but for fire districts or hospital districts or everything else. It seems that there is a difference of opinion here. There are some people that say, hey, this is fine, this is a pro forma matter, just go ahead and look at it and pass it on. You also have what, from my experience, is a pretty decent turnout of citizens. I don't know how many people normally show up to yours, but I've been to a lot of BOC members, and seeing a half dozen, 8 people to show up and talk and look at something is fairly unusual. If you don't know, and if there are complex issues, and there are serious allegations that have been raised by members of the community, it would seem to me to be reasonable, what Mr. Steinberg said, to take a time out and start looking at it. Do you form a separate committee? Do you delegate it to one of your existing committees? Look into it. Find out what those questions are. You know, really document them, not just somebody talking at a podium, but really dig down and understand what those questions are from members of the public. And then start turning around and talking to the consultants who can answer it, or to the district staff, and say, what about this? What about that? Did you say X and now you're saying Y? And once you have all that information, then you can process it and say, well, is this relevant? Or is this important? Or is this a big deal? Because if the state board, looking at granting this waiver application, is looking for your comment, and if the citizens are looking for you to give this comment, I'd say that having information on something that's fairly complex and from the previous discussion on the agenda showed up kind of at the last minute, I'd say that getting some information on it and digging into it's probably fairly important. The point here is that if you look into it and it turns out that there's nothing there, no blood, no foul. If you look into it and you find out that something's there, and maybe it embarrasses some people or it makes things not very happy, that's fine, because what you're doing is you're showing that oversight works. It shows that some rot under the varnish can be identified by somebody in the public, and you looked into it and you found it, and that's what oversight is about. You're about looking at things and saying, is this allegation correct or not correct? Ultimately, you know, the reason that there were reporters showing up here tonight to look at this and there were people turning to it is that they're trusting you to look into things. You know, I met a reporter from the Contra Costa Times, and we don't have that up in Sacramento. But what we do have is we have people, and I've served on 2 BOCs, as well as doing what I do with CalBOC. And you guys have a really important role to take this stuff seriously, to look into it, and render informed judgments. So if you're being asked to look at this and say, what is your feedback on it, I'd say that the requests that you look into it are probably pretty valid. Thank you.
Okay. Norma, you're first.
Thank you. We have more public comment. Oh, there's more public comment.
More public comment, okay.